Great here, and you are welcome to Banahene Tutorial Collections. And in this tutorial, we are going to look at a special feature in Excel, and that is drop down list. We are going to learn how to use drop down list in Microsoft Excel to make the manipulation of our data set easier. And without any further ado, let's dive in and explore this particular feature. Now, one may ask, what is a drop down list? It is a feature in Microsoft Excel that allows Excel users to choose from a list of options. It is an easy operation that enables users to pick an item from a list that has been created. It is a faster and accurate method of entering data in a spreadsheet application. It is also an excellent way to give users predefined lists and also to ensure the right data entered into a particular cell in the Excel worksheet. This is the theoretical explanation of the drop-down list in Microsoft Excel. Let's jump into the practical session of this particular feature. This is my Excel data set. This is a well-organized, in fact, a coherent data setup in my worksheet, and I have all this employee information. I have the employee ID, the name, position, age, phone number, hourly wage, hours worked, salary, paid, and also the status column headers. Now, all these column headers, we need to have their individual data typed or entered into their cells. And when we move to the position and also the age column headers, we don't have any data, and this is where we are going to utilize this drop down list. When this data set is shared among these employees, for them to fill up these column headers, they can do it manually, but there is a disadvantage. It is time consuming, and also it is also going to prompt us maybe an inaccurate information entered into the cell. Therefore, this is where the drop down list comes in to help us or help these employees to choose from the list, and that is going to be a perfect data entry. So this is the position column header. How can we add drop down list into this individual cells? When I select this cell, we don't have any alerts that prompt us that we should choose any list or an item from any options. So how can we create this drop down list? It is very simple. We can select a single cell, or you can select all the cells you want to have these data available. I will show you these two ways of entering a drop down list into the cells of Microsoft Excel. So this is the first approach. You select this cell, then you move to the data tab on the menu bar, and when you click, you have the ribbon of the data tab, and we jump straight to the data tools, and we have an option that is data validation. This option is very powerful in Microsoft Excel, and I'll prepare a video on that is going to dive deep into it, a deep dive tutorial on data validation, which will be notified on your YouTube page. So let's jump straight to our drop down list. You can click directly on this option, and you are going to have this pop-up window. Alternatively, you can choose this arrow and then choose this first option. It is very reasonable and also a straight option to click on this particular option, because when you get right into this list, that is the first option being recognized by Microsoft Excel. So you can choose from here, or you can choose from this list, and when you do so, you get this data validation window, and below this we have settings, input message, and we have error alert. Now we are going to emphasize on this particular settings tab. When you click, you have this validation criteria. We have allow, and we have the data. When you look at allow, what is set in Microsoft Excel is any value, meaning this Excel cells do not restrict you to a particular data entry. You are allowed to enter any value into your cells in Microsoft Excel. So we are going to ignore this option and click on this arrow, and when you do so, we have all these options you can choose from. And as I said earlier, I'll have a deep dive tutorial on this data validation option. We are going to explore all these options, but in this recent video we are looking at drop down list and how to set up your drop down list. I'm going to choose list from these options, and then we have this available. And when you move below, we have source. We are going to click, and you have the cursor blinking in the source field. This is where you are going to enter your data or the options that you want to have them in your drop down list. So I'm going to type the first item, which is cleaner. Now when you are entering your items in this particular field, you make sure to use the comma as your separator for each data. So now that I have typed this particular cleaner, I'm going to type the comma symbol. That is going to serve as our separator. Then we type the next item. So please give me some time to enter the items needed. Now when you get to the last item that has been typed into your field, you make sure not to add any symbol. And when you are done, you click on the OK button. Now when you get to your data set in your workbook, the first cell that is selected that was meant to have this drop down list, you can see that we have this arrow beside it, which is this particular arrow, and that is called the drop down icon. When you click, you're going to have the options that we typed in the data validation window, and this gives you the room to choose an option. And as I said earlier, this is the better way to have an accurate data set in your individual cells. When you give this data to an employee to enter the position he or she has in a particular company, he or she might type the data that she needs or he needs, but that is going to be maybe an inaccurate data. That is, there can be an error in terms of spelling, and that is going to be an inaccurate data. Therefore, giving out a drop down list gives them the room to choose the data that is needed and also to prompt a perfect data entry. So now that we have this list, this first employee is going to navigate through all this list and choose the position that he has or she has in the company. So, and now you can see that we have this particular option. If the font or the formatting does not suit you, you can select, move to the home tab, and then you can change the font size, the font color, and also the font type. So now when I choose from the list, now this matches the kind of formatting I want in my source. Now that we have this option, when you move to the next cell, you can see that we don't have any drop down icon beside this cell. So how can you have this particular data validation apply to all these cells? What you can do is to select, hold down the shift key and the down arrow key to select all the cells you want to apply this validation. Then you hold Ctrl+D on the keyboard, and this is going to apply all this data validation to all these cells. Therefore, if I select this and move to this side, I have the drop down icon, and when I click, I can choose, click, choose, and this is the best way to have this drop down list in Microsoft Excel. So this is the first approach you can use to have your data validation. I'm going to clear all these options. I have cleared all the data validation applied to all these cells. The second way to also have a list of options for all your cells is to select the first cell, hold down the shift key and the down arrow key, and select all the cells that you want to apply this particular option. Then you move to the data tab, choose data validation, then you move to settings, change the default setup and choose list, and then you type your source in this field. After inputting all your lists in this source field, you click on OK. You can also press the enter key on the keyboard. Now when you jump right into your data set, you can see that all these cells, they have all their individual drop down icon. Therefore, when I click, I can choose from this list. Click, then you can choose, and if you want to apply some formatting, hold down the shift key and select all these cells. Move to the home tab and use the font group to change your formatting for all these cells. So this is how to create a drop down list in Microsoft Excel. Now we have created the specified drop down list that we needed in our data set to help our employees to choose from these options. I'm going to center this to match these headers. So I'm going to select, hold down the shift key and the down arrow key. Then we move to this and click on this center alignment so that we can have it perfectly matching our column headers. So this is how to apply the drop down list. Now let's assume that you have other positions you want to add to your drop down list. Then we are going to select all the cells. Then we move back to the data tab, choose data validation. Then we click in the source field. We start to type the additional items we want to add. So I'm going to type some items added to this data available. Now I have added some items into this drop down list and I'm going to click on OK. Now when I move back and select this, you can see that now I have this scroll bar or this vertical scroll bar available. I can click and navigate, and now you can see that I have the additional items added to the current items. So you can choose. So this is how to add new items to your current items in your drop down list. I am going to clear all these drop down lists available. So I'm going to hold the shift key and the down arrow key to select all the cells. Move to the home tab and clear all these options. So now we don't have anything set up here. Another way to have your drop down list is to have all the positions, all the items typed in a different cell, and therefore choosing or creating your drop down list, you can go right into your list and select them to have your drop down list. What am I trying to explain here? Let me show you practically. I'm going to select all the cells to have my drop down list. Now when I move to the data tab, data validation, then you choose the list, and then this time around we are not going to type in the source field. We are going to click on this. That is going to allow us to choose from some lists. I'm going to click on this sheet tab and I have some list typed here. Click and select. Then you click on this option and then click on OK. Now when I move back to my data set, you can see that I have all this drop down icon. When I click, so this is also another manipulation you can have in terms of creating drop down lists in Microsoft Excel. And I hope this explanation is very, very perfect and also understandable. Let's move to the age column header. Now in this age column header, our age expectation is from 25 to 35 years. Therefore, if an age is typed below 25, that's going to be an inaccurate data entry. And if the age is also above 35, that is also going to be an inaccurate data entry. So how can we set up this particular data validation for this age column header? So the same implication, we are going to select all the cells, then we move to the data tab, choose data validation, and then we are going to set this particular to whole number. We are going to choose the whole number, which is the second option. And then we have this data criteria here that says between, and we have minimum and maximum. So in the minimum field, we are going to type 25, and in the maximum field, we are going to type 35, and then we click on OK. Now this is set up. Nothing is shown here. If I click on this and type 25, I have an accurate data. 35, 34. Now if I type 36, this gives me a wrong error alert that says this value does not match the data validation restrictions defined for this cell. It means that when you type anything above 35 or below 25, you're going to have an error alert. Therefore, you can click on retry, cancel, or you can choose help. This is when you are not the creator of this particular data validation. So I'm going to retry. This is accepted. I'm going to type 22. I also have an error because this data entry is below 25. So I'm going to retry. And then we have this data entered. So this is how to create drop down list and also apply some small data validation to some cells in your data set. And as I said earlier, I'll be diving deep into data validation, and I'm going to create a different tutorials and explain all the options that you need under data validation. Hope this video was helpful. Please give it a like, share with your friends, and also I need to see your comments in the comment section so that we can communicate and also collaborate. Let's all keep learning and sharing knowledge. Thank you, and see you in the next one.